everybody, my name is Bill. Welcome back to another episode of the NCAA Football 07 Dynasty Mode series. It's been a couple of months, but I'm finally back on this. We just finished the last episode talking about the SEC West. Today we're going to talk about the Sun Belt, and in sometime in the near future, hopefully within the next week, we'll talk about the WAC, because I'm currently working on that script right now. And hopefully we can get this done and I can be able to do the live stream of the off season sometime in the future. We're going to start off with Florida Atlantic, who finished the year 10-3. Their best win, in my opinion, came in Week 9 against Arkansas State, 35-28, and that was an overtime win. And their worst loss was in Week 13 against Florida International, 31-17. Their grades are that they're great on offense and defense, and also third down efficiency. They just need to improve on the penalties, being more disciplined, and protecting the quarterback. And my thoughts are FAU has been on a roll, doing so being one of the best offenses in the nation, the best defense in the conference, and the second best in the conference in third down efficiency. The Giants are wanting to defend the title for the next season, and with 409.5 yards per game, with 251 of them through the air had 30.2 points per game, 31 passing touchdowns, allowed 338.2 yards per game, with allowing 20.5 points per game, and getting 45 sacks and 26 turnovers. They have the chance to possibly defend the title. But they do need to protect their quarterback and be more disciplined. They allowed 31 sacks and got called for 99 penalties, the most in the conference, for 761 yards. They improved those numbers and they will defend the championship easily for next year. And now off to Florida International, which here they're called FIU, but FIU is shortened for Florida International because I don't think they could fit Florida International into the game. And that's just my guess, but you never know. As you can see, they finished the year 9-4. with their best win being that Florida Atlantic worst loss, 31-17. And sorry, I'm trying to get a hair off my Kindle. Their worst loss, though, was in Week 11 against Louisiana Monroe, 50-31. They are great at getting offensive yards, also great at getting points per game. Their defense is good as well. They're doing well getting interceptions, holding onto the football, and also just forcing turnovers in general. They need to improve their red zone scoring, well, just the red zone in general, both scoring and defense, their third down efficiency, and their discipline, just like Florida Atlantic. If the Golden Panthers didn't lose in Week 11 to the Warhawks, then FIU would be the Sun Belt champions instead of rival FAU. They beat them just a few weeks later, and they should be champions if they beat Louisiana Monroe. They have about the same stats with 407.5 yards per game, 32.3 points per game, 250 passing yards per game, 30 passing touchdowns, allowing 364.3 yards per game, allowing 26.3 points per game, 26 sacks, and forcing 30 turnovers, including 22 interceptions. They really need to focus on the red zone, though, as they scored on 74% on offense. Although they got 12 field goals in the red zone, if they had more field goals, they would be better in the red zone. And they were allowing 75% on defense. They need to keep it cool and stop them before reaching the red zone. They also need discipline as well, as having 90 penalties for 823 yards will help the opposing team a lot, as well as only converting 41% of your third down conversions. Improve that to about 50% and the conference could be theirs next year. The next team is Troy, although granted there's a three-way tie here for third was Troy, Louisiana Monroe, and Arkansas State. But we're going to start off with Troy because just going by the order of how they are on the game. And they finished the year 7-5 with with their best win coming in Week 12 against Arkansas State, 35-28. This one was not in overtime, though. And their worst loss was in the Sun Bowl to number 19 Notre Dame, 45-14. They have great rushing offense, passing defense, and unlike the other two teams, they're pretty disciplined. They just need better passing offense and better red zone defense. The Trojans have an amazing rushing game with 192.8 yards per game and a great passing defense with allowing 202 yards per game. They also kept well of turning the ball over with only 15 giveaways and not committing that many penalties with only 68 of them for 543 yards, second best in the conference. They need to improve on their passing offense because 186.6 yards per game and won't really win many games without, which they won't be able to win many games without balanced offense. They definitely need to stop teams when they have them in the red zones. The opposing teams have scored 92% of the time when they get down there, which is the highest in the country. Calm that down and they could easily win the conference next year. So now, let's go from Troy, which in a couple of games they're known as Troy State, but it's basically the same team, to Louisiana Monroe, to the Warhawks, who finished the year 6-5. Yeah, they played 11 games. Some teams do that. Some play 11, some play 12. Some, if they're lucky to get a bowl game, get 13. And if you're in a conference championship, that's 14. Their best one was Florida National's first loss back in Week 11, 50-31. And their worst loss, the worst loss of their own for Louisiana Monroe came Week 13 against Louisiana Lafayette, 41-36. They're great on offense, especially with their passing touchdowns. They just need to do it better when it comes to the rushing ball and their defense. Louisiana Monroe did an excellent job on offense with 550.6 yards per game and having 297 passing yards per game. They did so well on offense, it made me wonder, how did they finish 6-5? When I saw their defense, and it was awful. They finished giving up the second most yards per game in the conference with 437.5 yards per game, including the most in conference for passing, for rush. I forget what kind of yards it was. I've been off and on with this script for the past few years. Well, not past few years, past few months. That I forget what it was. Okay. I probably should have gone the other way. Yeah. Let's see. Louisiana Monroe. It was defense. Yeah, allowing 183 rushing yards per game. They also had 6 rushing touchdowns as well, which won't fool other teams too much. If they can mix it up more and get to clean up their defense, they should be a great contender for the Sun Belt Championship. And since it's on Louisiana Monroe for the stat book, it should pop us back up to the... There we are. And now, Arkansas State. I had a little bit of trouble trying to think of what to say for Arkansas State, though. Oh, but I finally thought of something. They finished 6-6. Their best win coming in Week 5 against Florida National, 31-13. And their worst loss was Florida their next best win back in Week 9 in that overtime loss, 35-28. They have a great rushing attack. They're great at scoring, great in red zone for both offense and defense. They got good rushing defense, and they have third down efficiency. They just need to get more sacks and get some more passing yards. Makes up the offense a bit. And also stop it on defense as well. And I think Arkansas State is a very scary underdog in the Sun Belt. They have the 9th best rushing offense in the nation, which is scary for any Sun Belt team to face. At 209.4 yards per game on the ground, they should be feared in the Sun Belt because even with that, they're scoring 30.2 points per game. They also have been 82%. They also have 82% on successful scores in the red zone because of how effective they are on the ground. They also have a good rushing defense too, only allowing 131.9 yards per game. They also allowed only 69% scoring on red zone defense, which number one is nice, and number two is one of the best in the nation. The only improvements I see from this team are to get more sacks and improve on passing on both sides of the ball. They allowed 232.8 yards per game through the air, while only getting 15 sacks the entire year. They also averaged only 193.4 yards per game through the air. A little balance could be useful for their team. If they can improve their defense for passing and get a few more sacks, they'll be a dangerous team for next year. They also have 27 freshmen and a few transfers as well, so this team will be extremely dangerous for the conference next year. Watch out, Owls, watch out, Panthers, because next season, this could be the Indians' time to shine for next year. And now, let's go from Arkansas State to North Texas. As you can see, we just got a few more teams to go, and afterwards, we will be on to the 9 teams for the WAC, which, like I said, I'm currently working on that right now. And that should hopefully come out this weekend. Keyword is hopefully, because I don't know when I'm going to be able to do it based off my schedule. It's just a guesstimation on when it's going to happen. But yeah, North Texas. They finished the year 5-7. Their best win coming in week 2 at Northwestern, 32-25, and their worst loss was week 4 at Miami, 38-6. They're great on red zone offense, protecting the quarterback and being disciplined. Excuse me there. They just need to improve on recovering fumbles and getting to the quarterback. The Mean Green are coming off an average season. At 5-7, it was expected for them this year. They started off well and had a chance to upset one of the best teams in the nation in Miami, but laid an egg. If they can just do what they did this season in scoring 80% in the red zone and allowing 20 sacks, they'll be doing good. Also, they had only 65 penalties called on them for 512 yards. They stay that disciplined, and they might become champions. Though 17 sacks and 2 fumble recoveries are not the best way to win games. I think they need to force more turnovers and get more sacks and just try to win, you know? Like, do more on offense. Try to get better stats, you know? Try to make your team look that good going into the games, you know? Now we're going to Middle Tennessee State, which they finished 2-10. Their best win came against Louisiana Lafayette back in week 9, 56-40, and their worst loss was in week 4 against Memphis, 42-14. They do have a young roster. It's just that they were completely bad at everything this year. Those 2 wins, I'd say they just got lucky on. Well, at least the Louisiana Lafayette win. Their other win, no, I'm not ready to advance to the off season. Yeah, their other win, which, okay, their only other one came against an FCS school. So, yeah. Basically a no-brainer on what their best win was. So, the Blue Raiders are pretty young and they need to improve. They were the worst at basically everything in the conference and need to highly improve. The only problem is that they are suffering from a probation, as you can see up there, 1-year probation, where they have less scholarships than everyone else. I think it's like 10 less scholarships. I'm not 100% sure because I haven't had that happen. And you only get the probation if you don't suspend the players enough, or you use all your discipline points early on some of the players, and you don't have enough to actually like suspend them, or you just basically blow off like some of the bigger stuff and give them slaps on the wrist. Like let's say they were caught cheating on an exam, they want you to do something about it, you just suspend them for like a half. That's not gonna look well on your team. They have 24 freshmen, so they have room for improvement. So hopefully they should be alright for next year, but it's going to be extremely hard to tell with this team because with a lack of recruits, you can't be able to prove your team that quickly. And they might end up being where Louisiana Lafayette is next year instead of being. And the only reason why they're ahead of Louisiana Lafayette is because they beat Louisiana Lafayette. Which, speaking of Louisiana Lafayette, let's just go and get them over with. Like, they finished the year 3-9. Their best win came in week 13 against Louisiana Monroe, 41-36. And their worst loss, I have to say, came in week 7 at Florida Atlantic, 59-3. They do have a young roster as well, and they just need to focus more on offense, defense, scoring defense, and turnovers. And the Raging Cajuns are coming off a bad year, but their roster has upside. They finished with 365.4 yards per game, allowed 442.4 yards per game, and 37.9 points per game. Their allowance stats that would easily have them up there with some of the teams in that phase. They also had 27 giveaways, the most in the conference. If they can improve and have the freshmen be big parts next year after learning experience, they could be able to take the conference and go from worst to first, which would be very surprising to see, but I'd like to see that and let that be something. I mean, they're 4-star academics, so they do have a lot of the freshmen starting. It's just that they need to have the freshmen actually get good, and they might not be able to fully go from worst to first. I'd say maybe they end up like where Troy or Louisiana Monroe or Arkansas State is for the most part. But it'd be cool to see them go from worst to first, And like these two teams, like if they don't improve, we could easily see them down here at the bottom again next year. And North Texas, like I don't know what direction they'll be going. Arkansas State, they're going in the right direction. They're going up. Same with Troy, in a way. Louisiana Monroe, I think this might have been their time to shine, but they basically laid an egg on the defensive side. And these two, Florida Atlantic and Florida International, they could easily stay on top of the conference come next season. Which is something that could easily be possible. But you never know when it comes to the game doing the simulations. That's it for the Sun Belt, and next time around we'll be talking about the WAC, and we already know enough about San Jose State to know that they suck, but I'll get more into their stats when we talk about them, because they were the top team in the not top 10, well in the bottom 10 for such a long time. But until then, I will see you all next time.